Hey guys, it's Coach Edwards, lacrossegoalietips.com and lacrossegoalieuniversity.com. And this week I got a great question. You know, it's hard to think about this already because the season's about to start, but already people are thinking about summer camp and what they need to do. So I got an email the other day from a parent wondering if their goalie should be going to a recruiting camp or more of a teaching camp. Now, this is a great question. So usually my first answer to this is if you're hedging, if you're not sure if you should go to a teaching camp or a recruiting camp, most likely you need to go to the teaching camp, right? If you think your goalie needs that, then you're probably, they need to be working on technique and working on proper movement to the ball because there's 1,000 other goalies out there who are trying to get seen. So we want to get that technique and we want to get that up and running. I'm now starting this year some private camps. I do not run mass camps. I run private camps, more like private consulting, because I find that's the best way that I can really teach a goalie. In 2 days, I can totally overhaul a goalie, right? So 2 days. So instead of spending like $720 plus travel and expenses and things like that, you know, people come to me and we can overhaul you in 2 days. Plain and simple. So we'll get into that later. But for now, in terms of teaching camps and in terms of there's a lot out there. My only problem with a lot of the camps that are out there is they really rehash basically the same stuff, or they put a different spin on the same stuff. And that really bugs me. I see a lot of video footage from kids at goalie camps from some pretty prominent names. And I'm just kind of shocked that nobody's like in the goalie's ear working on technique. What I usually see is a goalie getting shot at with like a tennis ball machine, and that's kind of fun. Or I see you know, some high school or college kid just hucking balls at a goalie, and there's really no focus on proper step, proper stance, those sorts of things. So you know, you can spend your money anywhere, but I would like to say this about camps. Which is anywhere you go, and this is the problem with camps, anywhere you go, you're going to get a gem, what I call a gem. Okay, so I attended, you know, the Cornell camp for 2 summers when I was in high school. I went to the Syracuse camp. I went to 205 East. I went to Gettysburg. I went to this, probably what was one of the first camps where teams came from different states. Where I went with an all-star group of kids from the 205 East camp, and we played. So I've been to all sorts of camps, and what I have to say is this: at every one, I learned something that changed my game. Now, what I try to do when I coach guys, I try to pile that all into 2 days so that you get all the gems that I've ever learned. But I do hear from parents that, you know, they went to this camp and their kid didn't really learn much, and I attribute that to really the typical coaching camp model, which is you get like the best names you can get in the sport right now, and you throw them all together in a camp and you run them through the drills, and the kids have lunch together and they stay up too late in the dorms and they get the t-shirt and the shorts and maybe the stick giveaway. That's all well and good, but you really got to have a plan when you go to those types of camps. You know, your goalie needs to understand, this is what I'm going to this camp to work on, okay? And so that they go there, they drill every instructor that they can about that question and whatever comes off of that, so that they can become a better goalie. Now, for goalies that are new, a biggest mistake I see a lot of parents and young or new goalies make is they don't want to go to a camp because they're afraid they're going to be the worst goalie. And what I say is, like, if you feel like you're going to be the worst goalie, you need a camp, right? You need to go now, because goalies, once they get around other goalies, whether there's, you know, it's an all position camp, which I recommend more than a goalie-specific camp. You know, you learn from everybody. Okay, you get around better defenders, you get around better middies, you get to play against better attackmen. You get coaches from different schools, different levels, who are in there teaching you. But you got to be proactive about it. Now, in terms of recruiting camps and showcases and things like that, you know, if you're the best goalie on a showcase team, I think it's worth your money. If you're not the best goalie on a showcase team, I tend to find these as being, they can be problematic. Goalies either don't get enough time, or they don't play at all, right? Or they just don't really get their money's worth. And so if you're the best goalie on a showcase team and you're going and you're going to play and you see a lot of shots, that's good. You know, that might be good for you. But if you're not that goalie, I would probably recommend you need someone like me, or you need some place where you can go to basically get your game ironed out and get all the package. Now, what I do find with a lot of camps is that they only focus on playing lacrosse. They may focus a little bit on like they'll give you the recruiting story, or they'll give, but all in all, it just comes down to the same stuff, and that I find that's a bit of waste of time. One of my biggest things is when I see kids go to camps and coaches show up and they're in flip-flops and shorts and their sunglasses and a cool hat on. I think that's the most disrespectful thing for a parent who's shelled out close to $1,000 to get your kid to that. If you're gonna charge that much money, which I do, you show up professional, ready to go. And so you got to make sure that your goalie is going to go and is going to get their money's worth, okay? But like I said, your goalie may go to any place and get a gem that totally changes their game. My hope for you is that whatever you pick, you get so many gems, your goalie comes back transformed. And I don't always see that happening. So in terms of camps, where to go, really the sky's the limit. There's a couple great camps. There's Bill Pelot runs his camps. Been running for 25 years, and and it's really like a goalie farm. There's lots of goalies. I disagree with the goalie games. I think that makes no sense to me. That's a bit of a time waster in my mind. Why do I want my goalie to go to a camp and get shot on by a bad shooter, which technically most goalies are? Right? Most goalies struggle with that stick. Why have a goalie game? So most goalies are in the goal because they couldn't play anywhere else in the field, right? So why put them out as attackmen and middies? And it's fun, it's cool. I guess in some ways it's a good break to the day, but I don't necessarily think that's the most effective way to coach. But that being said, going to that camp, you're just going to get overwhelmed by what you learn. Right? You're going to see this whole spectrum of goalies. For that goalie that doesn't think they're the best goalie, they're going to be the worst goalie out there. Sure enough, they're going to show up at that camp, realize they're not the worst goalie, and come back with a whole ton of inspiration and motivation and just esteem as a goalie, which I think is pretty cool. Okay, so keep that in mind as well. There are other regional goalies now. Places where guys throw goalie-specific camps. Those camps, I tend to, those are the ones that I see the bad video of. Not that that's a snapshot of the entire camp. But again, I do find it's just, goalies just maybe not always getting the best support and the best teaching because it's hard because there's not a lot of great coaches out there. But again, you may get a gem or two, and that's all you need. Okay, so keep that in mind. But if you're thinking about teaching camp versus recruiting camp, you probably need a teaching camp. If you're thinking recruiting camp or showcase, make sure you're that best goalie. Or if you're on a team where you got 2 all-star goalies, great, go, and you're going to share time, go. But I know money's tight for a lot of people and they're trying to make tough decisions. But don't think I'm going to get into recruiting later. We'll talk about that later. But I think a lot of people think they need to showcase to get seen way too early. And I know there's guys getting recruited out there, and at freshman, sophomore years, the goalie position is a little bit different, but by all means, don't think that you're a grade 8 and you got to go to a showcase. I would rather see a grade 8 kid go to a teaching camp and come out of that with some great skill and some great, because then that season they're gonna have a great season, and that's gonna matter. Okay, so that being said. All right, it's a big answer to a big question. So I hope that helps. Shoot me an email if you got a question. Coach Edwards at lacrossegoalietips.com. And do me a favor, share this, like it, tweet it, pin it, plus it. I'd really appreciate it. And I will talk to you real soon. Cheers.